Welcome back to the Wide Awake Media podcast. I am your host, Didi Denslow, and we are here speaking to real journalists, freedom fighters, and scientists who are determined to speak the truth and contradict consensus in the face of a scientific community often beholden to powerful, nefarious influences, sometimes called skeptics, heretics, and deniers. Today, our guest is astrophysicist and geoscientist Dr. Willie Soon, who is a leading authority on the relationship between solar phenomena and global climate. He also likes a volcano or a tectonic plate or two. Dr. Soon is an independent scientist and founder of the Center for Environmental Research and Earth Sciences, CERES, a truly private multidisciplinary research group focused on solar and climate-related studies. And as a side note, Ceres was the Roman goddess of agriculture and fertility. He is on multiple scientific editorial boards, has published 2 books, is a lead or named author on over 100 peer-reviewed scientific papers, starred in the environmental documentary Climate, the Movie, regarded as the most important documentary of its kind, and was famously interviewed on the Tucker Carlson encounter, The Truth About Fossil Fuels, which has just given me a whole load new questions. He has faced and risen above unethical and often libelous attacks on his research and his character, becoming one of the world's most respected and influential voices for climate realism. As a chemistry teacher, I'm incredibly excited to have him on the Wide Awake Media podcast. Welcome to the show, Dr. Willie Soon. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm very fine in this great morning over here. It's cloudy, it's snowy, it's a bit cold. That's why I have my layers of jackets on.
Are you in the north of USA? Yeah? Whereabouts are you based?
Yes, I'm in Massachusetts. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are a leading climate realist, or as some in some groups you'd be called a leading climate denier. My first question for you, and to start off with, is could you please just explain what is actually meant by anthropogenic climate change?
The claim of anthropogenic climate change is basically rather political. It has really no strong root or basis in science, in my humble opinion. Of course, I do have the benefit of after 35 years of entertaining that hypothesis, because science is also, you cannot just randomly say, no, I dismiss, I'm going to ignore you. No. If it's true, it shall stay. But as of now, I think we just should throw it out because it's completely nonsense. Okay. The claim is that human has come along. In the beginning, we're using so-called renewable cow dung, horse dung, all kinds of problems, basically dung related. Your human exhaust or animal exhaust, plants, trees, wood, all kinds of things, we burn them. And then until the industrial age come along, right? We started to know how to build internal combustion engine. And then we started to find out that, there's this little black rock that looks so simple. Flintstone will use it to boom, knock his head. But we burn it so we can generate energy. Coal, that's a magic word. And then they say that because we use this, allow me to use this nomenclature, fossil fuel. Better use coal, gas, natural gas, and of course, oil, right? Petroleum. It emits carbon dioxide. Obviously, when you burn it, you release carbon dioxide, yes? And therefore, they say if we put more carbon dioxide into the air, that would lead to some kind of global warming. I had to say that in the beginning, I avoid this topic for almost 20 years or last 15 years. I'm back into trying to understand how does the atmosphere has this amount of carbon dioxide, because that's a fundamental question. Because carbon dioxide is been emitted by all these other fluxes. The human amount is very small. I have numbers. It's of the order, let's say, 8 to 10 or 12 gigatons per year. The amount coming from the ocean, 200, 250, 350, depends on the layers. And then from the soil, there are much larger amount. So carbon dioxide in the air, is it all fossil fuel? I say no. Hell no, I would use the word. Because my friend shows that essentially there's a lot of misinterpretation of the data, but they ignore the most important greenhouse effect in the Earth system is water vapor. Right? You can quantify those things. That's what science is here for. We show that large part, 80 to 90% of the greenhouse effect is actually water vapor produced in some sense. If you add cloud to it, I think you get a number. Cloud is in a sense, it's not a gas, it's a liquid, it's a ice, it's all these different phases of water that is actually contributing in terms of regulating the temperature of the earth. How does it balance itself, right? But ultimately, one thing that is forgotten by because of reframing, and then they wave their arm too much, so you started to forget what the hell they're talking about. It's basically the sun, it's the sun. Every energy, in fact, there's a statement, even the hair, your hair here is grown by the effect of photosynthesis in some way. It's 99.9% of the energetic power on the sun is supplied by the on the earth, is supplied by the sun. Okay. I have numbers, and then later we can put on the slide if you want.
Okay.
Should I
do that now?
here?
Do you want to put a slide on now? Okay, I'm just gonna hit pause.
Okay, go, right? All right. Here's a way to view this. The weather and climate system is completely powered by solar energy. There's nothing else. Okay, nothing. And that's a statement. Because you can see the power of the sun is this number, 4 times 10 to the 26 watt. That's a unit of power.
Big.
And then the earth itself is 2 times 10 to the 17. Even all of this number is mainly converted power from the sun. The actual radiogenic heat, because we have done the experiment. Humans are very clever, by the way. Mm-hmm. We have measured this thing. We measure this number. It's another 10,000 times smaller than the converted energy from the sun. This is why it's impossible to say that carbon dioxide is going to drive the climate system. And they always say that the sun cannot do it. You know how they do it, right? They actually tell you to think about the sun that is like a standard light bulb, doesn't change. Not only that, the earth is not going around the sun, which is produce you the seasonal cycle. They tell you ignore all of that, subtract all of them out, and then only control the CO2. This measurement is very, very beautiful physics experiment, by the way. It's measuring something called geoneutrino, produced in the core of the earth. Very accurate measurement done by the Italian group, Alimonte. By the way, he also went into the issues of climate. He started to study himself independently from any one of us. He concluded that, yes, this CO2 thing is nonsense. And guess what? He published a paper in European Journal of Physics in 2022. He published, peer review, after went through it. And then the gangster, all the bad guys from the IPCC and all the gangsters, I can name names, those guys, come after attack him, and then the paper got retracted. And you call him a bad scientist? No, he's a good scientist. The bad scientists are the one that pull those political things. Not only that, they don't dare to say what is wrong with the paper. This is always the same story. Because I've been through this a million times, so I can assure you that this is wholly truthful stuff. He is not a stupid guy. He's a physicist who's trying to measure this, give us this number. Okay, not many people actually doing that kind of experiment can measure. It's very expensive a measurement. It's in Gran Sasso down in Italy. Okay. Then let me just one more move just to show people what the CO2 is. You can put the CO2 number on the same scale. Okay, 10 to minus 22. Okay, even if you have a lot of molecules in this air, like in this room temperature, is 3 times 10 to the 19. Particles, they say particles are basically molecule per cubic centimeter, right? It's not enough to produce and to beat the sun. The way to look at this CO2 versus the sun is very simple. They tell you that don't look at it over the month because they want to tell you to imagine that, the earth just still here, the sun going around us. That's a bit like anti-Copernican. They also tell you that don't even look at the season. But indeed, all the energy supply is actually related to the season. Even equator sea less, they actually have some season. They have 2 seasons, rain or not rain. That's where the monsoon region in equator, you imagine, you don't have much. Yeah. But in the high latitude, the earth is all controlled by this sort of effects. Yeah. So the sun number is actually this. And then the CO2 number, after 150 years of adding carbon dioxide, we change from here to here. Small amount. And not only that, it obviously have no dependence on season. But this number is very, very important. Because tell me, how is it that CO2 going to control the sun in some sense? Because they say that CO2 is going to dominate everything. They are basically saying that all the climate change that we've seen It's 100% controlled by the sun, but provided that you remove this season. Okay, so this effect is very clear, but I want to say one more important thing. Another number that is very important is this. They tell you on temperature curve. Remember, they always showing you the very smooth curve of temperature year after year, and then not only that, they apply long-term filter to show you it's global warming.
Yep.
But if you look at temperature in this scale, this is rather a good station from US because we have the most station in United States, and this is monthly data. It's showing you that over the season, each season is 45 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 25 degrees Celsius. Okay. And then what they are trying to look for in global warming is asking you to believe that all of these are all related to global warming. Basically here, the top or the bottom. But it's not true. It's all season. It's all something to do with the sun. More sun, less sun, and then internally change how much water vapor you got, how much cloud you got. You actually absolutely don't need any CO2 to explain anything.
Mm-hmm.
Zero.
There are issues where they actually take their temperature data from.
Oh, yes.
For example, urban areas, lots of concrete, lots of buildings.
In fact, we were the first group to publish a paper that shows that, because they always say, oh, it's local, it's in London, it's in this, that. No. We prove beyond doubt that this thing happened when you average over Northern Hemisphere. That the urban heat island effect didn't go away. Okay? And they claim that IPCC say that, oh, the urban heat island effect is small. In fact, we are the one that pushed them to make that statement in 6 assessment, okay, which is produced in 2021. By the way, 7 assessment is coming. Please, they're not going to rest. you think they're going to stop right now? It's coming. It's another 2027, 28 is coming. But the point is that they say the urban heat island effect is small, less than 10%. We prove conclusively. We're the first one to publish in peer review so that, no, you're wrong. It's actually far more than you imagine. In fact, the effect is not only the number, it's actually the character of the change. Okay, the urban highland make you look like you are persistently changing. So single arrow going up and down. But we show that, if you remove this effect of urban heat island, use only rural station, you have a character that the climate varies on 40, 50 year kind of time scale. So it's all more like an oscillation.
Yeah.
That's a bit remind us that the sun does have the capability to do that. And when you fit the sun picture, it's fit. It works. We didn't say that we found the proof that the sun solves everything. No. We simply say that you have to reject the hypothesis of carbon dioxide. That's the proper scientific way. I'm not trying to be wishy-washy because the problem is complex and hard. So one have to admit it. That's a good scientist. Well, one of the hard problem is actually seasonal cycle. See, over the United States, if you collapse all the data, this one we only use 5 years of data. They look like this just to give you the amplitude. And then you ask yourself the question, how much does the radiation changes? 210 watts. Okay? So, no, this is getting at the issue where they claim carbon dioxide, if you double it, you're going to get 4 watt per meter square. That's what they're saying. Look, they're talking that we want to look for 4 watt versus this 200. And then if you combine them together, you will get this very important number. This number means that if you double the carbon dioxide, even if you don't do anything, the number you can get is of the order of half a degree. That's it. That's a very optimistic way, providing that the cloud is not doing it to cool off the system so you won't even be able to see this number. That's the whole point of this carbon dioxide problem. So I'll stop share now.
Okay.
Thank you, Darren, for allowing me to see some of this slideshow.
I think one of the reasons why CO2 has been chosen is because there isn't that chemistry knowledge or science knowledge within the public. And they couldn't say, increasing the amount of water in the atmosphere might impact upon global temperatures. So we'll use this carbon dioxide. The average person doesn't know. We'll call it pollution. People see it coming out of chimney stacks when actually it's just steam and water. And that's what fools the public. Do you think there's some truth in that they're preying on people's lack of knowledge that this trace gas CO2 is actually a pollutant, which we breathe out. We breathe a kilo.
No doubt about it. Yeah, they even try to make you forget about your grade school chemistry and biology. CO2 is plant food, right? They actually, by the way, United States it's a very strange place too. Our U.S. Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, was able, through political argument and forces, able to regulate and rule that CO2 is an air pollutant, which is totally disastrous. That happened on 2007, April 2nd. I call it the famous April Fool kind of nonsense. And that decision is 5-4. So there are 9 judges. So 5 voted yes, that is an air pollutant, 4 say no. But I think that we need to repeal this law because this is the law that is pure politics. If anybody who don't know this is that it's ridiculous to try to rule that carbon dioxide is an air pollutant, right? Because it's a gas of life. It's make plant. In fact, the only effect now, carbon dioxide. Let's ask this basic question: what does the carbon dioxide increase from burning of this so-called fossil fuel have done to the system? I can assure you, we haven't seen it in the temperature record. We haven't seen it in the ocean temperature. We haven't seen it in anything. All this claim about ocean and all this thing is not true. We've never seen them. We really don't have a way to see it. The only concrete number that we have, that we see, observation, is that the planet get greener.
Yep.
I'm not trying to hold this. This is true satellite measurement, looking down and see how green the planet is.
The Northern Hemisphere is greener now than it was 100 years ago. And the reason why 100 years ago the planet wasn't particularly green in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly in Europe, Western Europe, and the UK, is because until we found coal, we'd cut down all the trees.
Trees, exactly. You got the answer. It's more or less correct. It's a broad statement, but it's true. That's the whole point. And these people are trying to rob us from that little facts and little knowledge. I mean, I am not dogmatic on what energy we should use, this and that. I just remain neutral. All I know is that we do need more energy. I mean, access to energy, I like that phrase because in a cheapest possible way is actually a way for human proliferation from poverty. The number one weapon of human society and culture or anything is actually poverty, in my humble opinion. I don't want to speculate more on that, but the whole point is that to try to demonize carbon dioxide and make energy more expensive is ridiculous. It's the wrong thing to do. Whereas the sun itself is actually can explain most of it in the best of our scientific understanding. And then they're trying to hide that truth from people. They try to make sure you don't understand that all the energy that's supplied to the earth that drive the plant, right? The photosynthesis, drive anything. It's all the sun. So they keep saying that, but the sun doesn't change. No, it changed a tiny bit. But that tiny bit, it's equivalent to the really big giant in the system compared to this little stupid thing called CO2, right? I mean, it's nothing. If you look at the energetic, I just show you that graph. Those things are real numbers. And you cannot lie. They can talk all they want. They're always trying to rephrase it in something called anomaly unit, this and that. They never tell you the absolute unit. They forgot that the ice will only melt when you reach 100 degrees Celsius or froze at 0 degrees Celsius, not the anomaly difference, the difference of the anomalies. It's just very strange language kind of nonsense, manipulation basically.
And it's deceptive language.
I want to tell this story. I get to lecture Al Gore. I say, how dare you call CO2 an air pollution? I say, I may not be an English speaker, native English speaker, but you are an abuser of the English language.
And he's not really qualified, or wasn't at the time, and still isn't, really to drive this narrative along in the first place, is he? I mean, he is actually just a politician.
I managed to scold him in the public forum, a Wall Street Journal kind of a rent-seeking conference, but I got invited. I just go have a look and do my job. You know what I mean? Confront them. He got really mad at me. Who are you again? And then he got it from the teleprompter at the back. Oh, Willie Soon. Who are you again? Willie Soon. I said, yeah, Willie Soon. Please check it out. Please tell your people to type faster so you can hear exactly who Willie Soon is. He's just a scientist. He don't care. I'm here to pursue truth, and God's mission is to seek the truth. That's it. I don't care. Please stop it. Don't lie. Don't keep manipulating and then intimidating people. They're trying to scare. They're trying to take my funding. By the way, of course, I've been through the process. I'm a proper scientist. I have a lot of funding before from NASA, from Air Force, from NSF, what have you, National Science Foundation, if people who don't know what NSF is. All that kind of money. Funding, research, proper. You like a research proposal, you want to do this, do that, right? And then you train graduate students, this and that. And those are all useful things, good things. But these days, they abuse the system so much that, I'm beginning to think that, in fact, that could be the problem. So we got to reduce the funding for this kind of nonsense, the kind of money that went into this, like research. I don't know, prostitutes should be wearing, I don't know, some kind of a thing to, all kinds of nonsense, you know. There are all kinds of examples.
Mating habits of cockroaches.
Yeah, cockroaches.
And the impact of climate change on it. Oh, here, have $1 million. And
exactly.
I actually had, when I finished my chemistry degree, the guy I studied with, he was a Russian Turk, and he went on to do a doctorate in climate change. And I was a bit of a believer back then because I was young and naive. And after he got his doctorate, he left. And I said, "What are you doing? You've just got this, you know, you've just got a doctorate in climate change science. You're gonna be minted." And he said, "I was told what the outcome of my thesis should be." And so he quit the field as soon as he got his doctorate. And I've heard lots of stories like that from chemistry students who are well-meaning going into climate change research only to find that the money pays for the results. Has that really driven along this narrative to the point of where it's become a monster?
Yeah, I think so. This is definitely true. There are many examples of such thing. I'll give you another very definitive and more heart-touching example is my colleagues, Richard Lindzen at MIT. Richard Lindzen, I'm sure, is appeared in many quote in Wide Awake Media or Will Harper, that sort of thing, Princeton professor. He, up to a point where about 15 years or 20 years ago, he already tell the incoming graduate student or postdoc, he say, "Are you financially independent? If you have to depend on a job to take care of your kids, your wife and all that, that's our foremost duty, obviously. I also have the same thing, right? I have to take care of 3 kids, my wife, my family, things like that. But I tend to think that God is provided for me. So I'm just have to do is tell the truth and work hard. You know, work hard. Like I say, I always say, if they want to take the funding away, I'm still very good at cleaning. I can clean and work, serve McDonald's. I don't care.
I do cleaning and gardening.
I know. I'm just saying, just be humble and learn the best. Of course, don't be so stupid. If there are money to be made, let's make some money, you know, like in the honest way. Do you understand? That's the way I behave in life. But they are taking money away. Lindzen refused to take any more graduate student and postdoc if they have to depend on this, because once you're associated with people like me, by the way, one of the features that I have is that even though I publish a lot of paper, I always have a lot of co-authors. These are all distinguished professors from France, from England, from everywhere working with me. But they always understood that there's a big danger because you're going to get all your thing canceled. But that's why it turns out that most of the people that work with me are all senior professors. Because the young one, it's like I always kick them out. No, don't join. You're going to be damaged. You know what I mean? It's dangerous for you. Only when you are ready, then okay. You know, and you really want it, it's okay. You know what I mean? You cannot stop the human will to tell the truth. I do not want to kind of be that kind of bad person to stop them. If you want to do it and you really consciously know, because you need to understand this, the field is hopelessly corrupted.
Yeah.
Corrupted to the point where you say you cannot take graduate student, right? Not only that, I give you another example. All science infrastructure, Royal Society, National Academy of Sciences, all fail us, every one of them. Not only in this topic, by the way, on COVID, I'm sure. People will figure that out. And every topic, they fail us. On pollution, on all kinds of issues, they fail us because they just do this sort of what do you call this? This is the most ugly thing in science: consensus building, and then be nice and don't confront each other. Science doesn't care who you are, what you are. Actually, it's about the truth and the data, the good measurements of the data. And these days, be careful also with the word data. They actually think that computer-generated output is data. I mean, I wouldn't use that. That kind of thing. So beware. People need to know. It's just so many layers of sophistication, but all with a purpose. The purpose is to confuse you and to control you. That's it. Okay. So I hope people will listen to us more, because I think I'm not trying to make any money out of it. There's nothing. Just to tell you that please be careful. Do not buy into this. You are right when you say that you were like believe in this carbon dioxide global warming. When I started my postdoc, same like you, 1991, 35 years ago or more, right? I believe in the same thing. I just check. I happen to check because my job is to calculate this, calculate that, to estimate the sun, how much the carbon dioxide can do, how much water can do, this and that. Estimate all of that. And then you come up, it doesn't make sense. Why do we take the seasonal cycle out? Because that's what the first step they tell you. All the guys that did it before, oh, because somebody did it before, you have to do the same thing. No, you understand? That's another rule inside because, oh, they say those guys did it this way. Oh, but why should I follow them? I'm not I don't know. I'm not a bull that, you can lead them out through my nose and put a ring and then guide me through. No, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm just an independent thinker. I want to think for myself. I want to learn as much as I can, truthful stuff, not all the cheating stuff. So yeah, that's what I say. Why did they remove this seasonal cycle of all the temperature record? For what? That's the most obvious signal. Why are we doing that? That's the first question I ask. Of course, that's already invite a lot of trouble. When you start asking that question, if you try to publish your paper and then you don't do what they do, you usually will not get published. I just try to tell you, it's such a gangster kind of move. It's just
I started asking questions. What woke me up to it was, one, I had a friend who was studying climate change, but I began teaching in a college. It was very woke, as you can imagine. And I started asking questions, and that got me ostracized from the teaching community that I was working with, the office. And then I started asking questions on a whole range of other topics, and to find out that the knowledge that I was given at a degree level of study was actually inverted. And, that's what woke me up. You've mentioned some names. You've mentioned the Royal Society, Al Gore. Who else is pushing this narrative? Where is all the big money coming from?
Well, it's through individual thing, and then of course they want the United States to pay into this fund. This stuff that used to be 100 million now into billion. Now they want $100 billion a year, that kind of thing. And then majority of the money, most people don't throw in the money. It's always the EU and the US, that sort of thing. And then US, I'm glad we pull out of it because we have a president that is just smarter than average and can think for our own self-interest. I think UK should think for UK, US should think for US.
Yeah, of course.
When we have anything that is in common, we merge because our cultures share that. You know what I mean? So the group that is biggest one is obviously United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, right? That was formed in 1992, essentially, right? 1980 something they started, but then they formalize it and then they have a first report in 1990. And that group, the first report, curiously, was the most honest one ever. After that, the second report in 1996 is all downhill. By the way, all my scientific papers was cited very positively in the second and third assessment. You tell me what happened. It's just because politically not sustainable to put my work in there anymore. So therefore people say, oh, you're not even important scientist. Your work is so third rate. How come it's not cited by IPCC? I say, no, you do not want to be cited by IPCC because they are really bad science people. They represent bad science. Stink. You understand what I mean? It's stench. It smells bad.
Yeah.
Just to be near them, you know what I mean? I really feel that way. But then good science, and then of course bigger group. The guy that really did the most damage is the guy that I felt he's very not well in the mental sense. James Hansen. He's the so-called father of global warming from NASA Goddard Institute.
Rings a bell.
NASA Goddard for Institute of Space Study. He was the second director. I so happen to my quasi-mentor is a guy named Professor Robert Jastrow. He's the first director. He created NASA GIS, NASA in New York City, Goddard Institute for Space Study. And the second guy is James Hansen. James Hansen went on and full-fledged alarm promoting carbon dioxide killing the planet, that kind of thing. In 1988, he was already claimed that he have 95%, 99% confident that he have detected carbon dioxide warming the globe. Think about that. That early. It's all pure political statement. And where is all the scientists to resist this guy? Zero. Because then money started to push in. Al Gore was there. Obviously, Al Gore was among first few guys. Was early in the Congress and the Senate to push this sort of thing. And this is why
it becomes too big, doesn't it? It just becomes a big,
too big to fail. Nobody dare to speak out against this money making deal. This pork fat, this really big fat that you really. That's the corruption. That's why institutions like all this, even if you don't go with them, you remain silent is already a problem. Because everybody know urban heat island problem is a serious problem. And then Nobody explained to you. Okay, first of all, science like this, we give them benefit of the doubt. If you say that you know how to remove this urban heat island effect, right? Please tell me how you do it. You check. I check. By the way, before I speak this, we check. It takes me 25 years to reach a state where we say that they are wrong, how they are wrong, this and that. Publish all the papers, show their step. Show that if you take a center and then you do this averaging, do all this other technique, it doesn't work. You cannot remove this so easily. The only way to remove this is actually to just take clean set of rural station that you can find, if you can find them, because most places are not quite rural anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have certain level of contamination always, because it's a very hard measurement. And then, that's what the problem is. I'm just trying to tell you that it's just so bad that no one even checked them. No one even speak out against this topic. Wait a minute. Why do we average the seasonal cycle out? Second of all, why do we just take all these stations and then average them together? This indiscriminately without telling me exactly what's the quality of this station here versus the one over there, the one over this mountain. They don't care. They just say, we are scientists, you trust us. It's another black box kind of gangsterism, right? So it is very bad in that way. This is just simple example of just thermometer, dude. Think about anything else you want to measure. I mean, the difficult measurements, yeah. Like geoneutrino, for example. Yeah.
In the UK, every year they say, "Oh, we've hit a new record, highest temperature in the summer," and then you'll get some internet sleuths and people on X. They'll go and look into it and find out, oh, that the temperature was taken at a RAF typhoon base just after the plane has taken off, and that's actually a real story. And I think this information is more and more filtering out to the public, and people are becoming less believing of the climate change narrative. Right. You're just talking about the academic institutes, governments, the supranational organizations like the UN who are funding climate change. What about big oil?
Big oil is also a terrible kind of business. They have a good product, but they are very scared. It's a bit like that.
Do they fund climate change? That's what the question.
Oh yes, they fund.
Yeah,
they fund. They give me $50,000 a year back then. Not give my institution.
Yeah,
they give Stanford 60 million, 100 million. So David versus Goliath. You want to joke around? No, and
it's ironic, isn't it? The fossil, the people, the bad guys who produce.
No, they are the one because they're rent seeking. They're paying their rent to not them criticize them. Same with Greenpeace. The way they what you call threaten all this big food agriculture kind of thing like Nestle. All this is like you like plastic. They will say that you pay a little ransom, then we won't speak bad ill of you. Things like that. Better publicity. So there is this kind of incentive that is very bad. I have no business also in the issues of climate science. They do have issue in geology, where to find oil. I would say that.
But wouldn't they want to fund green energy, knowing that that's where there's a lot of profit in it?
No,
they're increasing the price of their own product, knowing ultimately it's used to build all these mega projects, wind farms and etc. But also they know that ultimately, because green energy is not producing the energy requirements or that we need on this planet, it increases their sales. It makes their product more valuable. Do you think there's a business tactic?
No, I totally agree. No, those are basically the standard technique because they are. I mean, most average people still got deluded and not told this story. Every solar panel, every wind farm that you try to produce, because it's intermittent and unstable, you always have to have a backup plan. The backup plan is run by fossil fuel, basically. So they know every of this growth, I got to supply this. That's why the cost is enormous, by the way, because you always do double. You pay double for anything you want to do on this form of fake energy. They're not real energy in some sense, right? So, of course, fossil in that way, but fossil fuel playing that game more or less in a way to try to appease the system. We know that the fundamental energy that we need cannot be replaced by fossil fuel, except if we push in more money into, let's say, I really want to say it out loud. I don't believe we can. There are a lot of fake talk out there. Oh, we're so close to getting fusion energy. No, no, no. The fusion energy is in the sun. That's it. That's all you need to do. That energy is available to us.
Uh-huh.
Then all we need to do is do the fission stuff, nuclear breed reactor, all this.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the good technology to invest or to do more about it. And the secret is actually for me is we tend to have a thinking about everything big size. We build gigawatt, 100 gigawatt. No, no. I think modular system, smaller one,
Yeah.
is much more useful. And then plus that in remote area, clearly in remote area who have no other electric grid will be too expensive. I think solar is fine. But the problem is also that, it's also that it's not the solution to change anything. It's just a useful thing, right? And the fossil fuel, I don't know what their incentive. All I know is that they are supposed to they are for profit, so they're supposed to make money. That's the way. I also in a firm believer that the more richer we are, the better we are able to take care of the environment. That's it. When you're poor, go India, go Philippines, go Malaysia, in Jakarta, go look. What is that? Is that caused by some human ill will or fossil fuel? No, it's caused by poverty.
Uh-huh.
Basically, they couldn't even care for the environment. They just throw all the things there. It's so sad. It's poor, being poor. That's all I'm trying to say.
Isn't one of the biggest drivers, though, to raise people out of poverty, and we've seen this in China, energy production. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, the UK became the global empire that it was back in the 1800s and the early 1900s was because we had discovered coal and a way of extracting energy out from it. China, they've been building power stations. They're building nuclear power stations left, right, and center. That is ultimately going to drive that country to become an economic superpower. We saw it in the US with their energy production. So, isn't energy? You could argue that this green narrative to reduce the amount of production of energy from fossil fuels is actually a method of deindustrializing the powers of the world, like Germany, for example.
Yeah, Germany is just so very strange. I mean, really, really strange. I mean, they're really knocking themselves out. It's really strange, like you have a little headache.
It's suicidal.
Instead of taking some aspirin, I mean, people may not like aspirin. I'm just saying sometimes you have headache. Instead of doing that, you take a knife, maybe I should chop off my finger first, then my whole hand, and then you're bleeding to death, dude. It's dangerous. Why are you doing that? It's so strange. Because, first of all, you're not solving any problem, And it's also the failure to understand that this carbon dioxide is actually a very big player in the system. It doesn't do it. It doesn't change the strength of the hurricane. It doesn't change, the number of tornado. It doesn't change anything. I'm sorry, you keep talking all you want. Everything is generated by computer model to lie to you. It's nonsense from all these experts. The expert class, I think, is degrading themselves because they are actually giving very fake and third-rate information and understanding and trying to convey to the mass public where they think public are too stupid to even challenge them, which means you just take it straight in, spoon-fed. And
Always
it's not efficient.
Follow the money, isn't it? It's money.
It's always about
and
the money.
Control. And I do think there are some sinister actors involved in the climate change narrative. And I just quickly checked before we came online about what the UK government are planning to do to combat climate change. And that is to pump sulfur dioxide and other sulfur compounds into the air. And guess what their project's name is? And I don't know what the acronym stands for. Satan, Satan, and they've just admitted, we are actually, and I think it's got Bill Gates' involvement and his name all over it. They are spraying the skies, and it might be being conspiratorial. You've heard of chemtrails and all the rest of it. It might be why the UK in the last 5 to 10 years is permanently overcast. Think about attempts to block sunlight and reflect it back into space.
Yeah,
I mean, and could you argue that the part of this agenda is they actually want to harm the environment? They want to kill plant life. They want to reduce CO2 in the atmosphere, and for reasons that could probably only be described as malevolent.
Right. It's really, really, yeah, terrible. And it's I don't know. It's of the problem of the kind that is beyond evil. I mean, this is exactly what they're doing. They are really with such an imprecise understanding of how the system works. Now they are trying to add more problem to this system. And not only that, those so-called particles and chemicals and aluminum oxide, this and that,
Yeah.
ain't exactly very nice to us.
No, no,
I
no.
mean, it's not very good to us. Not only that, the whole ecology, the
Uh-huh.
ecosystem, and things like that. It's just not exactly very good thing. And why are we doing that? Oh my God!
I
Yes,
mean, there's also an attack on agriculture and farming.
yes,
That coincides.
yeah.
Farming's bad for the environment. Since when? Cow farts are bad for the
No,
environment.
fake meat, fake meat. The fake meat that they can grow from cell. That is such a joke. I mean,
Well,
they don't.
I was going there. Yeah. Are they trying to destroy agriculture, the greenness of our planet, in order just to hoik us, sell us Bill Gates, fake meat products or these fake soya products, etc. And by harming the environment, spraying the skies, pushing this green energy narrative, that might actually create a demand for these products because there is no other food.
Yeah, I on that part of fake meat and all that, I'm glad to see that the huge amount of investment totally destroyed.
Yeah.
I hope they won't come back. But knowing what we know about them, human nature, these people will attempt again.
Yeah, they'll never give up.
Please, constant alert. We got to be eternal vigilance. I mean, that's what it is. Because those things, the fake meat topic is so simple to think about it. You are basically trying to demand that not eating from the real cow, and then you are actually putting, and then you want a cell that tastes like chicken, and you are putting more chemicals. You are basically consuming all kinds of chemicals that to make it taste and emulate this thing that you don't know what it is. You don't know the side effect. You don't know all of this. This is how ridiculous things are, and it's very damaging for society to go really blindsided completely like this. And they are the one who put that blindfold on us. That is pure gangster, man.
Yeah, and the worry is it's the young people who are coming through who have been indoctrinated in schools and colleges and in universities who may never ever know the difference. They're going to come and take over the reins of this agenda and continue to drive it forward, fully believing that what they are doing is correct and scientific because they know no different. And so it's your children in your school, it's your young adults in university. They're the people that we need to target with the correct information to wake them up because they are the future leaders. We are now coming to the end of our conversation, Dr. Soon, and it's been fascinating and very illuminating. And I do have a couple of questions for you, though. One,
please do.
And this is going to be like a finger in the air question. You're probably just going to say, I don't know. What would be the correct concentration, percentage, etc., of CO2 in the atmosphere? What would be the optimum?
Yes, we have, of course, it crossed our mind. Believe me, no stone left unflipped. And whether we have solid answer or not, this answer is pretty good. It's not my own research, but I help and check in the literature. I would invoke the name of Professor William Harper. Although he's a physicist.
He's on our list at Wide Awake Media to come on.
One of the smart guy, yeah. I mean, you go to Princeton University, he will tell you where this tree. He's very good in botany, by the way. So he studied that a lot.
Yeah.
And he dig into very deep into this literature, this and that. I think he came up with a number on the order of 1,200 ppm. Which means 1.2%, yeah.
Three times the concentration. Yeah. And that was
we need it to be 3 times more. Yeah.
Historically, we had those sorts of concentrations.
So we have a number for that. So we're way beyond. By the way, it's not guaranteed that if we keep pumping CO2, right? Let's say that we decided we want to increase carbon dioxide. In a small volume of your greenhouse, obviously it's okay. You burn propane, right? That's why the greenhouse vegetation, you make all the tomatoes and things like that for winter. But in the free atmosphere, we don't know whether we can increase or not. It's just that's how I'm trying to tell you how much of an unknown. And these people are deliberately say that 100% of all the increase so far has to be the carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuel. That's not so. So that's exactly what I'm worried about. Yeah, we want to have more CO2, but can we get that? It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But maybe the
It
alternative,
occurs through naturally,
is to
doesn't
do
it?
it.
It
No,
occurs
alternative
naturally.
to do it on smaller scale. So do it in your greenhouse. Yeah, that's all I would say. Yeah.
And my final question is back in the 70s, and there is actually quite a famous, it does the rounds on X, quite a famous little clip, and it features Leonard Nimoy, and it's got
Oh,
this
yes.
gloomy music, and he's walking around, and there's snow everywhere. And at the time, people were concerned because we was in a global cooling period that we were headed into an ice age. Now, technically, we are still in an ice age now. Is it called the Cetazoan period that we're in, and we're in an interglacial period?
We are Holocene. We are now in a Holocene. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Holocene.
What? Sorry, I've actually got it here. I'm just gonna.
Read it.
The Cenozoic Ice Age.
Cenozoic. Yeah. That's the longest geologic term.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're in the Holocene period, but we're in this interglacial period, glacial minima. What do you think actually the future holds? We're told that we're going to boil to death on planet Earth in the next, 50 to 100 years. But in your opinion, are we going to see a increase in the ice caps and the Earth go back to a much colder period, even maybe to a full ice age, a full snowball Earth? Or, what's your predictions for the future?
Okay. This is a very good broad question that I think I can provide something because I have really also again thought of it. And the thing to separate very immediate is like to separate the long geological tendency timescale, that it would have to involve tectonics and all that stuff, because when you start using Cenozoic, you really are talking about continent, Pangea moving, all the tectonic plates, right?
Yep.
The key factor to talk about, let's say the next 10 to 100,000 years will be two factors. The first factor is obviously the Sun-Earth orbit being perturbed by all these other planets, right? That's a famous phenomenon called orbital forcing. Even if the sun itself intrinsically is a constant light bulb, let's assume that for this one, then the incoming sunlight does get changed because our orbits of the planet Earth around the sun is tilted ever slightly, few degree. Over 41,000 years, about 2-3 degree.
Yeah.
That's big difference, by the way, okay? Because all the season is caused by that.
Yeah.
And then, like a wobbly top, it also precesses. Yeah. The two kind of precession always, exo and plus the orbital precession. Two type of precession. And that just simply mean that right now, our current orbit is that the closest distance of the northern hemisphere to the sun is actually during winter. But 11,000 years ago is on the other side, is during our summer, northern hemisphere summer. Okay, that's the precession of the orbit, which in the orbit changing, relative position of the orbit changes. Then another one is how circular or how elliptical the orbit is. Okay, we are quite circular, only 4% deviation from circle, 0.04. But we can change by a few percent, small, 2% or so, over 400,000 years time scale. Okay, that factor, I have studied this. I work with my good friend, the name of Gustavo Cionso from Argentina. We provided the first solution for the 10,000 years because it's a very hard problem. Then another factor is the sun itself, the intrinsic sun. As we know, the sun is the nuclear power and a generator inside the core, right? Converting hydrogen to helium. On the outside, the atmosphere expands the gas, plasma. That's what you call plasma, not like your blood, but it's gaseous. Just meaning that you have electron, protons, and all this other stuff, right? On the outside of the sun, because the sun is rotating differentially, you're producing magnetic field. The magnetic field on the sun is actually at least 10,000 times stronger than the Earth magnetic field. Earth also have magnetic field, okay? Small amount of magnetic field compared to that, right? 1 Gauss versus 10,000 Gauss, let's say, right? And this thing, to figure out how does the sun changes intrinsically from its own internal process. So you have to combine these two steps together. I have already told you that for the orbits one, we are pretty good. We can calculate that very accurately, right? We know that. And the 70s, when they say they are coming ice age, they only consider the orbital effects. In fact, I know the guy who did this. He wrote a letter to President Nixon and all this other guy. The guy that lead that field was George Kukla. He was originally from Czechoslovakia. Then he was at Lamont Doherty and Brown University. He's actually old man, but I met him. I was able to talk to him before he died. He was a guy who talked about that because we are in a place called Holocene now, 10,000 years, but the temperature has been systematically decreasing. So in the 70s, when we have instrumental data show decreasing, people thought it's going to decrease again, but it turned around a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, a little bit. That's the key word. So we are overdue for an ice age because every time in the last eight cycle of 100,000 years, every time for this 100-year time cycle is basically 90,000 years is in the cold phase, decreasing or cold phase or ice ages phase. And then 10,000 years in the warm phase. Now we're over 12,000 years. So people expect we're going to have that from that orbital effect alone. Then there's a missing component. The missing component is the sun itself. That one you have to start from even the sunspot cycle all the way back. We have already made forecasts on this because we have sufficient knowledge to do this. So the short-term forecast is that we really believe that the next, let's say 10, 20 years, the 2030s or 40s will be cold and then there will be a period of warm again. And that's because of the intrinsic sun doing it. And then it has to couple with the right orbital condition, okay, to do this. And we are in the moment that we can do this. That's why I would say that if we are going to waste all our energy, time, and humanity's soul on a problem like this, anticipating the future thing, you should spend it on ice ages. Because the problem is that we don't have any more heat source except the sun. If the sun is weakening, we are in serious trouble. That's why we need basically to, I think the only way out of this, by the way, not through coal, oil, and all that, because you cannot mine this, too difficult, is fission. We need nuclear. Nuclear is the only solution. So we would have pocket of civilization. And that's why I was originally born in Malaysia. So I'm trying to sell people real estate. Yeah, you come by to Malaysia, we'll sell you some land so you guys can hang out in the equator. You'll be a bit easier to live. But the northern hemisphere, you're going to be cold, dude. This is going to be like ice age. Because the last glacial maximum, 20,000 years, 21,000 years ago, the ice of North America moved from Canada all the way to Washington, D.C. By the way, curiously, stop around there. Around there, Delaware, around there, the ice, the front is right there.
My country will be exactly the same.
2 miles thick of ice. England, the same. Ireland, all these people. I mean, right here, Boston, we're like 2 miles thick of ice, actually. That was ice age. That's how serious it is. So how are you going to live? Not possible. That's why we are not worried about overheating. Overheating, we have ways to cool ourselves, but overcooling is a big problem for humanity. I tell you, life prefer warm than cold. In terms of life in that way. I mean, depends. So maybe I don't want to discriminate against ice, there's cryospheric science and all that stuff. But for human, holy cow. we're not gonna like ice too much. No matter how much snowing and skiing you like, you're going to be sick of it. It's going to be a problem if the ice age comes. That's all I have to say.
And we are actually technically in an ice age still. That's why we all wear clothes. Yeah. And I ask this question and people don't understand. I say, why do you wear clothes? Because the environment's not warm enough for you at the moment. Yeah. And that's even in the summer here in the UK. We still have to wear clothes. When the ice age comes, or when it starts to get much colder, they're going to have a problem with the climate change narrative. But of course, what they're going to say is, climate change doesn't just mean it gets hot. It also means it's climate change. It also means it gets cold. And that's going to be their way of getting out and continuing their narrative, from which I believe that they are profiting from. Dr. Soon, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. And I don't think I've smiled so much in all the podcasts that I've done.
I think so, yeah.
And it's been very informative. And good luck to Wide Awake Media, because it's going to take lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of cuts from this to get out on social media before we put out the full podcast. You are the founder of Ceres. Would you mind giving some links and some details on how people can find you, please?
Yes, please come and look for all the scientific work we do. And as you probably can get from this, we also have the passion to try to explain the science we're struggling with and learning from, so on and so forth. So come to the website, Ceres, CERES -science.com. Sorry, we're poor, so we have to have a dash. Rich people, all been taken away. So please come to that website. You will learn a lot. you will have also we have constant news release, and then another important thing, people who want to do independent science, we release every data we ever publish. So rule number one. Rule number zero, I wouldn't work with anyone who don't want to release the data, so I don't want to work with you, go away. Because that's not science. I also don't want to keep that forever. I don't own any of this knowledge. Knowledge is free.
Yeah.
I mean, we really need to have that mindset, or else it's very bad for humanity if we don't work together. I want to plug in a word that I really, really appreciate Wide Awake Media. I can tell you, I see the operation of Wide Awake Media that is so powerful. By taking clip in a very concise manner, and you reach the audience that we could never ever reach.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the effort, because it's now really a matter of communication. Be careful also, because when sometimes I say something, I could be wrong. Just always check. But I really honestly tell you that you come, at least you hear from me, you have the honest truth and nothing but the truth. And then if I say something wrong, I think Wide Awake Media is the same quality. If we are wrong, we will say, okay, we're wrong. Excuse me. We need to revise that thinking. We don't want to mislead you any moment further from all the things that we say that were wrong. I always tell you, the rule number one is that who you should go to and watch and all that is the people willing to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, no question asked, no if or but, nonsense.
Uh-huh.
You're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're right, you should tell it, hopefully, as passionately as Willie Soon is.
Yeah. You're definitely passionate, my friend.
I tend to be too passionate, but it's okay. Come on, I'm having fun, because the whole part about doing science is that you gotta have fun too. If you don't have fun, what's the point? You know what I mean? Because all those gangsters is already doing so many terrible things, and it's just nonsense, these people. Anyway, on any day and any time, I'm telling you, any question of science or anything, yeah, we will be the science hub, I would say. Please come to us, series-science.com. You will get everything, and then maybe I'll credit some of my colleagues. My two colleagues that really work with me very closely is Dr. Ronan Connolly. They are Irish. They are from Ireland. Okay. And then Dr. Michael Connolly, he passed away suddenly in August, so we were very sad about that, but his legacy will live on. We will produce groundbreaking science. I'm not exaggerating, for very tiny amount of funding that people donate to us, and I'm really grateful. And I tell you, we are a mission from God. We cannot fail. Yeah. We cannot fail, and we will do the best we can. And God bless. Thank you.
Yeah, and God bless you too. And you'll find the links to Dr. Soon's site, series-science.com in the thread. If you've got anything interesting that you'd like to say about this podcast, please send us a reply, whether you're watching this on YouTube, on X, on Rumble. We'd like to hear from you. You can find Wide Awake Media on X. We're at wideawake_media. That's at wideawake_media, and on YouTube and Rumble, Wide Awake Media. Just search for that, and you'll find all the other conversations that we've had so far. And we have also got some excellent guests lined up, coming up in the future for 2026. So whatever you do, please stay tuned and stay awake.